Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Long Way Round show. I'm your host, Daniel Cook, and I've got a great mate of mine in here today, Tommy. He's got a great story, and yeah, he's had a lot of ups and downs in his life, but he's a very inspirational man. And myself and a lot of the guys around in our sort of circle really look up to this bloke. And yeah, I'll let him introduce himself and yeah, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what life was like for you as a kid and things like that.
Thanks, brother. It's an honour and a privilege singing out to us. And Roy Man from the Warren Bungles there in Coonabarabran. I've been down here in Newcastle now, living for a while. Yeah, all my stories, I have to go back to 1978. My mum, she was only 17 when she had me. And yeah, it was sort of, my nan and pop reared me up. My mum was a bit too young. I got reared up pretty good, by my nan and pop. A bit of trauma and grief, just that handed down stuff. I was suppressed my old people were, and they loved the drink made them escape, like, I don't know, escape the reality they were in, sort of, like, yeah, a lot of pain, a lot of misery, and yeah, and it sort of, that stuff sort of ripples down the line, got handed to my mother and, gets handed to me. Yeah, just grew up fast, I was born in Camden in Sydney, Claymore, and I lived in Aids and Claymore. I remember Claymore, Marrickville we started off in, and then, yeah, I remember Claymore, and just I'm glad I never grew up in Claymore. Yeah, probably would have been dead or doing a lot of jail. Yeah, but we ended up moving back to the bush when I was about 5, and I don't know. I only got murdered when she was about 5. Yeah, I seen a lot of violence, in the young days, a lot of blood, and for a young fella, a lot of rows, and it was just the ugly side of grog. I seen my first body in a drain. I was only about 5 year old. That was in Claymore, and rats were all over it. And we reported it, and police come around, and I remember the arm fell out of the body bag when he opened it up, and I had bad dreams for a lot of years after that. Seeing that arm come out of that bag. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what life was like for you, like in your home. Like, was it how many other brothers and sisters or aunties or uncles? Like, was it a three
Yeah,
bedroom
well, brother.
home, or like did you have 3 or 4 other brothers and sisters in your room with you? What was it
Yeah,
like?
I grew up on my own. My uncle, my closest brother, he was about 10 years older than us, and that's my nan and pop's younger sibling, my mum's younger sibling, and yeah, he was born handicapped and with a tumour on the brain, and yeah, he was like my big brother. We grew up close. Yeah, I didn't have my brothers and sisters. I got 3 brothers. I got 1 brother, 2 sisters from my mum's side, and my dad's side. I just found my dad at 42, so I was going to get that, but yeah, I've got another 4 brothers and 2 sisters from him that I've just recently met. He just recently come across my dad, and I got to know him, so I can get to know myself a bit more. And
Yeah,
yeah,
wow. And how did that come about? Was that sort of through just Facebook or how?
yeah, mate. I went to a meeting down to Glen. I do AA, NA. It's
Yeah.
the Power of Love. I ended up going to New York, DC, and LA about 4 or 5 months ago, and I said, I think that's my father. And I looked at his forehead, he had the same forehead, the same lips, so there was no doubting that he was my brother. And not long after I got to meet my father, 42 years of age I was.
Wow.
I met my father, real father, for the first time, my brothers and my siblings, and
Your stepbrother, I'm imagining same dad, different mum. Is that right?
yeah, same dad, yeah, different mum,
And
yeah.
then you met him at you met the stepson at a meeting. Was he similar age to you, or a lot younger, or a lot older, or?
No, bro, he was 28 years of age, and my son was 26 at the time. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah, my son was 24 at the time, and he was 26. Yeah, so it's a couple of years ago now, about 4 years ago. Yeah, he just recently went to a rehab. My other brother, and he's up in Adele House now at Coss Harbour. So,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
sure I'm
yeah,
sure a lot of your family would be, inspired by your journey and, the way you've been able to turn your life around and things like that. But just while we're talking about your dad, like, have you sort of reconnected much with him, or did you sort
yeah,
of just
mate,
meet
yeah,
once and that was it, or have you
yeah.
been able to spend much time with him?
Well, my thing was, see, 37, my mum gave me the number and said, your dad wants to catch up with you. But I was in addiction at the time, and I thought, that old fella's 37 years too late. But then I got clean and safe. I realised that if I wanted to know myself a bit more, I've got to get to know this old man. My father, where my bloodline comes from. And I look dead spit of him. He's got like 6 other kids, but I look like him the most. And he being his eldest. So I
Yeah.
got to know him, mate. And, he's a good man. He suffers with this disease of alcoholism. But yeah, I know where I get my goodness from. He's a good man.
And is your old man in Sydney, or is he out bush still, or?
Nah, he lives in Dubbo. He lives
Oh
in
man. Yeah,
Outer Ring Street in Dubbo West is probably the roughest street in Dubbo, but he's been there for about 16, 17 years now.
yeah, Matt. And has he been able to sort of catch up with your family and your young kids and all that sort of stuff, or not that
Yeah,
much?
yeah, he has. He's met his grandson, Brennan. He's come down here a few times and caught up with us. And yeah, I go up there and, drop in and see him, now and again, just keep contact and, ring up now and again and see how you're going, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That would have been. There's a lot of emotions around, that sort of stuff and abandonment and all those type
Mm.
of issues. And yeah, it's a whole range of emotion that you can't describe in a 5-minute chat. But it,
That's what it was. See, my grandfather, he died when I was 10. I was 10 years, 10 months old.
yeah,
He was the best man I ever knew, He was my father figure, Give me all my traits, values, and morals, and great work ethic he had, and I've got that, Yeah, so he had me a lot of stuff. And when he went, mate, it was hard then, My nan sort of, with the grief, I'm suffering from that grief, mate. I was already gone in addiction, I didn't want to feel that pain of loss, like the pain of grief. So I picked up Yandy and I went from there, I was 2 months off 11-year-old and drinking by the time I was 11, and then, amphetamines by the time I was 13, and I just went down that dark road, I was, homes, jails, and I woke up at about 28, 28-year-old, and I found my first rehab, I got bailed from jail, Parramatta jail, and I found my first rehab, and I realised there was help for a person like me.
So the age between really 10 and 28, like, so your pop had passed away and your dad wasn't really on the scene. Was your mum around at all, or was she sort of in her own battles and
Yeah,
not really around much?
Yeah, and Mum, she was around. She had to start her own family in Conde, and my stepdad, he was a good man, He looked after me like it was just me and him from the start. He taught me how to hunt, fish, gather, He'd done all them manly things and camping. Like, he was a good man, He taught me how to live off the bush, live off the land, and he was really good to me, a good man to look up to. But when my pop went, because there weren't too many after that I was looking up to. But yeah, they all suffered with this disease of alcoholism, and
So you entered your first rehab when you were 28, is that right?
yeah, 28.
What was the journey like from 28 till now? Like, obviously, healing and recovery, it's a journey, you know what I mean? It's not just I mean, some people I've met in the past, go to one rehab and they're fine, but a lot of people, it's 3 or 4 rehabs and jails, and you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
what's your life been like, since you've been in recovery and trying to get well? Has it been a journey? Has it been up and down? What's it?
It's been a journey. Like, from 28, I walked in and out the rooms for 11 years. I've done 6 rehabs, 4 detoxes, and 1 madhouse. And, just walking in and out, I just went mad. I didn't go back to jail no more, because the program told me I wasn't a bad person. I was just a sick person, sickness
Yep.
from drugs and alcohol. And so, yeah, I'd go back to rehab, I'd get well, and I'd pick up again, and I'd go back. And yeah, it's my 7th time in recovery. So I walked in now for 11 years, and I went absolutely mad. So I was 39, and I heard life starts at 40, so I thought I'd come in and give life a go. I had 7 years depression. My old grandmother died, and I think I couldn't put it back together. More grief, just grief on top of grief. I give myself that much grief, for the life I put myself through. Yeah, it was a good rage. But yeah, 39, I turned it around. I got clean and sober. I've been clean and sober for 7 years, 10 months. Today, I think it is. Yeah, 7 years, 10 months, 1 day, I think. So it's been a good journey.
Oh, that's amazing. And I mean, what would you say? Do you feel like was the thing that was able to help you get those years up? Was it just growing up, or was it listening finally, or like was it your wife telling you you got to pull your head in? Like, how did you finally after all the years and attempts and so much trauma and pain be able to you know get that time up and stay solid for your family?
Yeah, mate. I think that the seed was planted when I was 28. I seen there was help for me on that wall. And that walking in and out. It what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And I finally had enough hitting my head up against the wall, I suppose. Walking in and out, in and out, and and yeah. Now I just decided to stay. And this shirt, power of love. Once upon a time the drug was too powerful for the love I had for my family. And now that I put the drug down, the love that I have for my family, that's what keeps me going. Keeps me sober. I filled a this hole inside of me, where drugs and alcohol filled, and I couldn't get enough. And today, I put God in my life and got on my own understanding. I got my ancestors, that I talk to. I got my nan and pop I talk to, my loved ones, many of my loved ones, this disease took, this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction took, I talk to them too, my fear is, I live a good life for them today, as long as I'm alive, they live on through me, so I'm going to live a good life for them, and they give me that strength and they fill that hole inside of me, that drugs and alcohol, could never fill,
Yep. So obviously you're an Aboriginal man, and as an Aboriginal man, how would healing and culture and community? What would you say about all that sort of stuff? Has it been a major part of your life and rebuilding, like getting back
Yeah.
to culture and all that?
Culture is the key, just connecting, to the land, the spirit of the land, the healing, connection, connection is what I lacked, is what I needed, connecting to culture, connecting to my country, connected to, the people, I pushed all my people away. I pushed my culture away. I just got lost on my journey. And culture, connecting back to culture, put me back on my journey, this road I was always meant to walk on, I was so far out there in the dark, but in our culture, with culture, just found my way back to the, back to the light, to the good road,
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's I can see how, a strong faith and connection and, community and culture is, all elements of building up, a life worth living and, what I mean, having family around and all that sort of stuff. Because I guess like, in addiction, we're looking for something that we're trying to fill through, drugs and alcohol and whatever else. And obviously there's a void there. And, when we can fill that through, purpose and healing and community and culture, we're going to be much better off people, aren't we? So I know you do a lot of foster caring and looking after some of your family that are sort of, I know they're your brothers or sisters kids, I don't know exactly, but you told me a little bit about that. Can we talk about that a little bit? I find that very inspiring. It's something I'd love to hear a little bit about. Is that something you'd be open to chat about?
yeah, mate. Yeah. My sister, she had 5 kids, and she ended up losing them through ice. And in my last recovery, I had 15 months, 20 days up. And, we took 3 of them on and then we ended up taking the 5 on. That was first up. And then my other cousin, she went to jail and she left us her kid, 18 months. This has been happening for 12 years now. I was only like little fellas, when they come along. And I went out there for another year on the stuff, and it's just got too much for me at the beginning, But me and my missus, we had 1 kid together. We've been together 30 years, and she's got all this motherly love, And I just left it up to her. I said, Bob, you want to have a think about, taking my sister's kids on. If not, they just would have got split up all over the place. And, I've got cousins, mate, they've went through 50 foster homes, growing up. And it's just the toll on they've been through the ringer, they've been sexually abused, they've been, unstable life, 50 foster homes, and they're just mentally scarred from it, and I didn't want that to happen to my sisters,
Yeah.
Yeah, that system, that system is it's not a good system, to go through this. Some good people out there, but you just never know.
Yeah, 100%. I've met a lot of people over, the years, and you meet different people, and you meet people that are in and out of foster homes, and yeah, like you said, there is some great people, but you do hear a lot of, stories that are not so great. So the fact that you and your missus were able to, help look after your sister's kids is very admirable, and it's amazing. It's one of the reasons, obviously, I look up to you for other reasons as well, but I find that it's just, you know what I mean? Like looking after your family, and not only your family, but your sister's family. That's just something that's, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. You know what I mean? Not many people
Yeah, it is,
have
mate.
done that. So yeah,
Yeah, and it's tough too. Like they all got their own little individual problems, Broken home kids, man. They sort of go down that tough road, But yeah, we're just trying to do our best, trying to save them from that tough road, They carry a lot of hurt and a lot of brokenness, a lot of abandonment issues, and all that kind of stuff.
yep,
And you got like, yeah, I got little Folly. He's got ADHD and he's a bit, what do you call it? A bit of autism, and
yep,
he's off the Richter scale, but we wouldn't change it for the world.
yep.
One, she's got ADHD, PST, and she's diagnosed with all this stuff. Yeah, we wouldn't change her for the world too. But he had another 2 days spinal bifida.
Wow.
Another one, my oldest one, she got put through the ringer. Like she's seen more than her younger sisters did, when she was living with her mother, and, expressing ourselves, talk it out or walk it out, whatever's going on, we need someone there to sort of, unpack ourselves, unpack our lives, drag things around with us for a lot of years, and all that grief and loss, and sit there, we couldn't talk about your feelings, it was a different generation. But yeah, that's what I found out with me, just, unpacking my life and unpacking my story, getting a bit of healing. I talked to this old woman, she said, Tom, she said, see that stuff? She said, you don't carry that no more, son. She said, you tell everyone and anyone, just to get that out of you. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what have you been up to lately? I know you briefly just mentioned about your trip away, and
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
what do you know? You're helping your uncle out as well. So what are you up to at the present? What's life
Yeah,
like?
I've got a bit of work here and there. I worked on the council for the last 5 years, and I
Yep.
took that to take care of my uncle and settle him into my house. And said that's my uncle that's got a tumour in the brain, and he's 10 years older than me, and we grew up together. So he was always meant to live with me, but I wasn't sort of in the right frame of mind a few years back. So now I am. He's come over to live with me and me and my family. I've got a bit of work at the moment, bit of work happening. I just put in for a couple of jobs. I've been sort of putting out in the universe there to get these jobs, and and everything's got a reason, man. It's all going to happen for me.
Yeah.
I just have confidence in where my life's going. I'm happy that I'm back on my journey. Yeah, I've got a beautiful life, mate. It's a life I was always meant to have.
So tell us a bit about your trip that when you went away. You went overseas and
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I've never been anywhere. I couldn't even leave the block once upon a time here. I got to go to America, got to go to New York, stay in Times Square for 6 days.
wow.
I took a boat up the Hudson, I caught the red bus north and south all over to Manhattan. I went up to Rockefeller Building, look at the Empire, took a boat out, like I said, the Statue of Liberty, but then we end up flying. I flew a helicopter right up the side of the Hudson River all the way over New York, and see rows and rows of buildings.
Wow.
It's a massive place. And then I got to go to LA, Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood and Venice Beach and San Monica Pier. And got to fly home. So 16 days trip.
Wow.
And yeah, mate. And like I said, it was it was just an eye opener. Yeah, it was like something that I sort of I'll treasure forever. But that's my trip now. I do a lot of walking, a lot of bush walking, a lot of camping, and that's my thing now. So going to the Barrington Tops this weekend with 4 other brothers and going to walk 30 Ks, 35 Ks, so they reckon this rain's going by Friday afternoon. So
I hope so. Yeah.
get up.
And is there any other conventions or anything that you got planned, or any other men's camps that are coming up in the next
Evan said, what's called? Up Byron, it's called.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Byron's coming up in a few months, and then the Sunshine Coast. So I'll definitely get to them too. Yeah,
Beautiful.
definitely get to them too. Oh, sorry, I'm going to the Lightning Ridge.
Oh, that'd be amazing. At Lightning Ridge when I was a kid, actually. It's pretty cool out there. Have you been out there before?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I went there about 15 years ago, out in the spas at night, go and have a few minutes out there, and then, mate, they just zap you, go and have a good sleep then,
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good out there. But yeah, you're going to go out there for a couple of days and enjoy it.
How good's that?
Yeah.
Better than sitting around drinking and being miserable, eh?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, get to do some living,
Fucking oath. That's
Yeah,
mad.
living. Yeah.
Hey, well, we'll wrap it up, bro. But have you got any final, anyone who might be, you know what I mean, thinking about that they want to change? Like, well, what would you say to someone?
Mate, I'd just say, hang in there. Yeah, and just just get someone to open up to, and get back on your journey, There's a journey, I've realised that time's the most precious thing that we got, Time. I wasted a lot of time. Today now, time is the most precious thing on the planet, to me, and just choose my time wisely and just don't go wasting my time, try not to waste my time now no more, Yeah, time is so precious. But yeah, if anyone's going through the struggle, just reach out, there's places out there. There is a way out, and yeah, we just got to get that way out of us.
If anyone wants to reach out and have a chat with you, would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I would, mate. I would, I'll be anytime. I can leave my number. You got my number. Put my number up on the post, and
I've
anyone.
got your number. I might put your Facebook link up, and that way they can just message you or something. Or I can put your number up. I don't want some crazy person ringing you through the middle of the night or whatever.
Yeah. No, well, that's what we do. See, I've got to give it away to keep it. They call it. So
Yep.
for me to help someone, it's just helping me too. So yeah, here for anyone. Like if anyone needs help, so I can point them the right way. I can just point their compass north. That's what we do.
No, well, I'm sure someone will be watching who would really appreciate that, Tommy. It's very generous of you to, open up your number, for someone to call you. So yeah, if you're happy with that, I'll chat or wants to reach out and chat to me. That's cool. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks heaps, Tommy, for coming on.
Thanks, brother. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. We'll catch up soon anyway. But yeah, thanks again and good night, everyone. See you, bro. Bye, mate.